is not spoken Greek, so it's very, very difficult to understand. It's nice to have it by your bed during this period, and a good idea, spiritual growth, is before you go to bed, you open up to the day in the Triodion, you turn to the hymns, and you read some of the hymns, some of the prayers, and you learn, and you get into the mode, into the rhythm of the Triodion. Very beautiful. Pascha, and this was always a trick question at the seminary, Pascha, Easter, is not officially part of the Triodion. The Triodion ends Saturday morning, Holy Saturday morning. The last service is in there. Pascha belongs to another book called the Pentecostarium, another beautiful book, and it goes from Easter all the way to Pentecost. Again, Greek and English. You can buy it, have it by your bed, open up to whatever day it is, and you can follow along and begin to learn little by little the teachings of the church, so that you don't come just on Sundays and miss the whole point of it. There is a story, true story from what I understand, of a church in the Midwest years ago, and they were experiencing a drought. Hadn't rained in a long time, and everybody there were farmers. They needed rain. And so, of course, they went to the priest. They said, "Father, please help. Maybe if you say a prayer." He thought about it, and he says, "Okay." He says, "I want us all to gather in church for 40 days. And on the 40th day, we will say the final prayer, and it will rain." All of the townspeople agreed. They came, 20 days, 30 days. On the 40th day, the church was packed. They gathered to pray. People were still talking among themselves. And as the priest was just about to come out and offer the final prayer, he looked to the people. And as he looked, he saw a little girl sitting in front. And as he looked carefully, next to her was a red umbrella. And she was the only one. And he said to the people something very significant. He said, "You came to pray on the 40th day, but this little girl," and you could tell, he says, she looked excited. "She did not come only to pray, but she came also to receive the answer from God. She had faith, this little girl, that it would rain, and so she brought her umbrella." I like that story. Cute anecdote, but at the same time, I think very significant and full of meaning. Today, as I mentioned, is the first day of the Triodion. So I would think that a book that's been around really since the 7th and 8th century, think of that, a book that we've been using in the Orthodox Church for so many centuries, that the wisdom of the Church Fathers is there. And if we have to understand how it is that we should go through all of these days, 72 days of the Triodion, how do we go through these 72 days so that we can truly experience the Pentecostarion of Pascha? The beginning, I would think is important. And you would be correct. The Church Fathers write a lot about this Sunday, the Sunday of the publican and the Pharisee, as being pivotal. Like the opening of a symphony, of an opera. The first part is critical, because that beginning is played throughout the concert. Same thing with the Triodion. To understand how we go through Lent, how we go through Holy Week, we need to pay attention to pre-Lent, the beginning. It offers us spiritual guidance and wisdom and counsel so that we don't go through Great Lent and Pascha in a negative way. You would say, "Father Frank, how can we go through negatively in the church?" You see here in the first lessons, in the hymns and the gospel lesson that was chosen by the Church Fathers, the wise counsel. There are 4 Sundays of pre-Lent. The publican and the Pharisee, number 1. Next week, the prodigal son. The 3rd is judgment. We stand before God, and how will we be judged? And the 3rd is how we should treat one another. Forgiveness Sunday. Smart, the Church Fathers, very wise. Because the first one focuses on the issue of arrogance. arrogance. We can go through Lent negatively and actually come out of Lent worse than we came in. Because we think, just like the Pharisee, that, look at me. Look how much better I am than everybody else. I fasted for 40 days. I didn't have any milk, any eggs, no chocolate. I didn't smoke. Maybe I gave up smoking. Whatever it is that I did for these 40 days and Holy Week. I did all these things. I gave money to the church. Maybe I made some breads for us to do some artoplasias. I did all that, and here I am at the end. Lord, now I want you to reward me. Very, very bad posture in the church. And the church father said, in order to prepare the people so that they don't do that, we choose a gospel lesson, only 4 verses, very short verses. Jesus says, 2 people went to church, to the temple, to pray. Bravo, good. One a publican, one a Pharisee. One a good person, the Pharisee, the professional faster. The professional giver, the professional knowing of the Bible. They know everything, the Pharisees, and his publican, tax collector, sinful. I don't want to begin to make an equivalent today because I get myself into trouble. But I think you get the gist. 2 people who outwardly, quickly you would say, he's the sinner, this is the good person. And yet Jesus said, who went home justified? The sinner. Not the Pharisee. Why? Arrogance. Arrogance. They came to pray, but instead of looking up to God and saying, God, I'm a sinner, I don't even want to look up, I need to keep my face down and look at myself, what was he doing? He's looking at everybody else. So there are 2 types of prayers the church fathers are trying to tell us. The vertical prayer and the horizontal prayer. The horizontal prayer is very bad if it is out of arrogance. Meaning, if you pray for other people, horizontal, okay. Help that person, I feel sorry for that person, help them because they're sick. What can I do to help this poor people to be more hospitable, to be more welcoming? Bravo. But when I look at people and say, look at that person, it's not our business. The church fathers say, keep your eyes to yourself. Forget judging other people. Look at yourself. So here's the the Pharisee, and he's saying to himself, I'm not like other people, Lord. I'm pretty good. I'm not an adulterer. I don't do this. I don't do that. I fast. I give. And he says, I fast twice. And the Pharisees were only supposed to fast once. So he is saying, I go overboard. Boy, am I good. Thank God I'm not like this person. What did the publican do? Kept his head down, didn't even want to look up, it said. Lord, have mercy on me, a sinner. That's the Jesus prayer. Have mercy on me. He's focusing on himself. In many ways, I would say, to go back to the umbrella, that prayer is the parasol of Pascha. Prayer. If we want to make it to Pascha and get there correctly, we need to cover ourselves with an umbrella in which we stop looking at everybody else and we keep our head down. That's one of the bad things about umbrellas. When I lived in Manhattan, we'd walk around and you'd bump into people because you couldn't see them. They'd come down, it was pouring rain, and before you know, you'd bump into individuals. So you had to kind of look up off the umbrella to see. Well, that's the idea here, is that here's this humble person, and he's got an umbrella over his head, and he's keeping his eyes on himself to the point where he doesn't even want to look up to God because he feels so bad. He recognizes his need for God's mercy. That's really Pascha. Pascha is not what we did, but the focus is on what Jesus has done. We come to Pascha with the umbrella of humility, realizing that although he's dead, he's alive. It will rain. We will receive the water of his resurrection if we pray appropriately. But do we? There is a conspiracy theory. It was on the X-Files, but maybe you've heard of it. It's called the Umbrella Man. You ever heard of the Umbrella Man? Do you know who that is? Oh, I'm surprised. The Umbrella Man, 55 years ago, John F. Kennedy was shot. In the photographs and in the video of him getting shot, look carefully and you'll see one person, a man, standing near the spot with an open umbrella, black umbrella. Here's a sunny day, wasn't raining, nobody had umbrellas, nobody had any kind of rain outfits. And here's this man, and they follow him. They go back after they saw that, and they see that he comes with an umbrella. He comes and he stands at a spot, and right at the moment when the motorcade is coming by, he opens his umbrella, and that's when Kennedy gets shot. This theory, this conspiracy that he had something to do with it, is rampant on the internet. As a matter of fact, he was asked 15 years later, they found him, and he went and he spoke to the Senate. He was called before the government to explain what he was doing there. There are people who believe that that umbrella actually had a dart in it. That when he opened it, a dart hit Kennedy and left him almost at one spot so that the other person could shoot him. Of course, this is a conspiracy theory because he said that's not why he brought the umbrella. He brought the umbrella in order to express anger at the president for not giving protection at the Bay of Pigs to his brother or someone who was fighting in the military at the time. So he came with the umbrella not to keep himself humble, but to actually use the umbrella in a negative way to somebody else. So we can use an umbrella, a parasol, to reflect ourselves, to project ourselves, to hurt other people, as you know. It can be used that way. It's been used as a weapon. Or we can use it with humility. We can be the umbrella man who focuses attention in bringing negative on someone, or we can do it on ourselves. It's our choice, ultimately, how we use our prayer and for what purpose. I want to end with just another little anecdote about Queen Mary. Queen Mary, in the early 19th century, one of the things that she did is that she came out of the palace and she would go to Scotland. She liked to go to Scotland and walk with the children. Well, one day she walked too far with them and got too far away from her motorcade, and it started to rain, pour. And she didn't know what to do. Nobody had any umbrellas. And she went and she knocked on the door of a very poor family. And a woman came to the door. She said, "Please, it's pouring rain. Can you please lend me your umbrella, and I promise I'll bring it back tomorrow." The woman in the house, not recognizing who it was, did not want to give her her best umbrella, and gave the queen an umbrella that was tattered, it had holes in it, and it didn't even open up completely. The queen took it, she used it, and the next day, can you imagine how you would feel if somebody knocked on your door and the door opened up, and it was the palace guards, and they're bringing back the umbrella with the statement, "The Queen thanks you for your kindness yesterday." The woman realized that she had an opportunity to serve the leader of their country, and because she didn't recognize it, because she was selfish, self-centered, she lost that opportunity. Today, Jesus knocks on our door, and he says we begin a beautiful period of the church in which at the end it will rain if you believe. Pray, bring your umbrella, bring your very best to me. And if you bring your very best to me, I promise that at the end, in a sense, it won't be rain, it'll be sunshine. And don't hold me to it, but I hope that when we have Pascha at the beginning of April, it will be sunshine and we will truly experience the resurrection of Jesus Christ. Have a beautiful day, beautiful week. I want also to let you know that unfortunately George Absalti is going on a taxidi. He'll be gone for, he says 2 months. I tell him you can only go a month. You have to come back quickly. Stelios will be filling in.
Not for 2 months.
Not for tomorrow?
Not for 2 months.
Not for 2 months? As long as you can, sirs, we'll love to have it.
All right.
Okay, Kavod Taksidi,
I stop.
and light a candle for us. Please rise.